Bender the Offender, what are the panel's thoughts on making paternity testing mandatory at birth before the birth certificate is signed? I figured I'd pull this one up now since it's somewhat topical. So going around the table, what do you guys think? Do you think we should make paternity testing mandatory at birth before the birth certificate is signed? Starting with you, Cindy, then we'll go around the table. Go ahead.
So basically like a test to see if they are your baby daddy?
Yeah. If the father that you claim to be is the actual biological father, yeah.
Yeah. Definitely. I mean, you don't want to have like someone else's kid. But that happens. Hey, Blueface tweeted saying that.
Based. No, you're good. You're good. Okay, what about you?
I don't think it should be mandatory because not everybody's in that situation, but it should definitely be one of the options that they give you at the beginning when you're getting tested and doing things like that. So
definitely.
They should offer that just like they offer a plan B and stuff like that, just in case. Definitely.
I assume that this would be at birth. This would be something you're in the hospital. They would take a test, make sure, probably get DNA from the dad. And yeah, what about you?
Yeah, I agree about what you said. They should offer it like they offer Plan Bs.
Okay.
I agree with Rocky. I don't think it needs to be mandatory, but I think if you're in a situation where one of the people are questioning, then it should be an option.
Well, I mean, to avoid all doubt, I think okay. Well, go ahead.
I think that it should be mandatory. Like, it wouldn't be a bad thing if it was mandatory, just because it protects the mother and it could protect the father as well. Yeah. And it could also hold both parties responsible and accountable. So.
See, I was going to agree with her, but then she made a valid point. Oh, I'm sorry. I was going to agree with her, but she made a valid point about it being mandatory, so I agree with that.
Yeah, I think it should be mandatory because it's really not going to hurt anyone. I think, if anything, it's just going to help the family in the situation.
Sure.
Yeah, I agree. I think it should be mandatory as long as it's like free and like covered and like what she said, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree too that it should be mandatory. That way that conversation doesn't even have to exist.
Yeah. Madison, what do you think?
I just think, from a top-down level, I think it's really sad that our culture's at a point where we feel like we need to have this kind of stuff just because, especially the fact that guys are questioning if their girl has been sleeping with other people. That's really sad, but I think that's where our culture is right now.
I agree with that completely because where I'm coming from, a relationship communication is number one. So all of this kind of conversation and stuff like that, we're going to have that way before we're having any accidents or anything like that. So that's definitely something that should be discussed beforehand anyways, whether you're open or not.
Yeah. I'm definitely in favor of it. And I'm actually curious what the chat thinks. Chat, even if it costs you money, let's say it costs you $100. Chat, if it costs you $100, but it would be done, that way you'd know, do the test, would you do it? I mean, that seems like a pretty fair trade-off. That's a yes for me. Would you, one in the chat if you're in favor of mandatory paternity testing, two in the chat if you don't care and you trust, you have trust.
A lot of yeses.
How many people are on here?
I think 7,000, 6,000, 7,000, around 6,000, I think.
Damn.
Thank you, chat. Appreciate it. So apparently, though, Madison, what I've heard is, and this is among people who are seeking out paternity testing. When they do seek out paternity testing, I think it's maybe someone in the chat. Can you find me the actual number? But I think it's like around 30%. They find that the person who's seeking the paternity testing turns out he's not the father. Turns out he's not in 30% of cases.
I mean, that's disgusting. And this is the one thing where I feel like, because most of our government systems and things are so slanted towards giving children to the mothers, if it's a split up parent or something like that. But then a lot of times, especially if a girl, like let's say she just started sleeping with, as you were saying, Cindy, one of her hoes. She's in a relationship, maybe married, whatever it is. She just is out clubbing with her girls, something just trashy, and then she's like, oh, I was drunk and then I had sex with this guy, and she knows this guy's just a piece of shit because he's like trying to be a homewrecker anyways, and so she probably would not want it to be a paternity test because she's like, that guy's not going to take care of my kid. And I think that it's I would assume that if we had mandatory paternity testing, it would be significantly higher rates than just 13%.
Okay. All right.